Did you know 80% of your immune system lives in your gut, and it could be the secret to feeling younger, stronger, and healthier after 40? Well, today in this episode, we're going to be diving deep into gut health with Cheryl, the founder and CEO of Tiny Health. Her journey started when her kids faced allergies and eczema, and it led her to discover how powerful the microbiome really is, not just for babies, but for adults as well. I also give my experience in the last couple of years with doing a couple different gut health tests, as well as doing Tiny Health, and was amazed at how far advanced Tiny Health was compared to those other gut health tests. So with all the different AI things coming out, Tiny Health is definitely utilizing that and getting to that next level status. So stick around if you want to fix your gut, just maximize your health and longevity. This is the episode you don't want to miss. Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on my show. I was excited to get you and hear more about Tiny Health. Before we started hitting record, I mentioned I heard about you through my new health insurance called Crowd Health, a new style of health sharing plan. We did a great webinar with you on there. I signed up my family immediately, and I already had some gut testing done a year ago through a different company. Not as elaborate as what Tiny Health does, but I had my doctor at the time prescribe me some supplements and knock out 3 different food allergies. So that was the first time I discovered, wow, microbiome and leaky gut, maybe some of this stuff really is true. I signed up with your service and got a pretty good score. I think I got 82 out of 100, better than the rest of my family.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's probably because you're fit.
Yeah. So before we get into deeper dive into microbiome and how you can help us over 40 people, we always want to get to know the guests. How'd you get into this? If you want to share your experiences, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks for having me on your show, Brad. I'm really glad to be here. And I am unfortunately or fortunately in the 40s club. I'm 42. I actually just gave birth to my 3rd child. He's 4 months.
Congrats.
Thank you. The origin of Tiny Health was when I had a C-section with my first daughter, who's 7 years old now. She ended up, having eczema, food allergies, gluten, dairy intolerances. That is linked to her C-section kind of birth because they're bypassing the vaginal canal. And then that's where babies get their first colonization of microbes from the mom is through the vaginal canal and some gut microbes from breast milk. And so I was looking into the literature and how to heal her gut because I learned all about how the early life microbiome that babies get, whether or not it's in the right balance, really impacts their lifelong immune system training. Allergies are a first sign of it. Eczema is a form of skin allergy. They're reacting to skin allergens, and then food allergies and respiratory allergies with asthma. That may lead to metabolic health issues later in life and also autoimmune conditions. I learned that 80% of a person's immune system lives in the gut. That there's a whole immune cell behind that gut lining wall that lines your intestines. And so it's really crucial to make sure it's in the right balance in the first 1,000 days of life. Tiny Health was kind of built with that story in mind because when I had my 2nd child, he's now 5 years old, I was pregnant with him and I was worried about a second C-section and wanted to avoid all the conditions I had with my first child. Thankfully, he was a VBAC, a vaginal birth after a C-section. And sure enough, very textbook literature, he didn't have any eczema or allergies his sister had. And then my recent birth also was a home birth, a VBAC as well. And he's really healthy right now. So Tiny Health, people think it's referencing babies and, oh, is this product only for babies? It is not. Sure, it refers to the tiny baby, and that's what our best-selling flagship product is, our baby gut health test. But I started Tiny Health from day one with the mindset of expanding into longevity, into older people, because I'm like I don't fancy the term biohacker per se, but I've always been like what we call 10 years ago, we called it quantified self. You track all your metrics and try to hack 1 or 2 and see what improves in your biometrics, right? I was that person wearing the Basis watch, if you remember that. Before there was like all these Aura rings and tracking tools, I was one of those people. Tiny Health also refers to the tiny invisible microbes in your gut. And so we have a B2B business powering a lot of longevity companies and health assessment companies, gut health tests. For example, Superpower. And then very soon, we're powering the Mayo Clinic's longevity and Exec Health Clinic's gut tests as well. So we're well into the sort of improving the microbiome for not just lifespan, but health span.
Yeah, I think I got into it late in the game because in my early 20s and 30s, it was more personal trainer, aesthetics, pumping iron, that kind of stuff, and worrying not too much about cardio. But probably about 5 years ago, started getting the Fitbits or the Whoop I have, started listening to podcasts of biohackers. So I kind of started with that trendy term, but I really didn't start watching too much of the microbiome and didn't know there was that much advancement in it until actually last year. I got a H. pylori infection from some food and Oh, that it was pretty miserable. And my doctor offered me, well, we can knock it out with antibiotics. By the time I saw him, I was over the hump. And he said we could do a gut test and probably use natural supplements for it because he was more progressive type doctor. So I said, all right, let's do it that way because I know antibiotics will just wipe out everything. I did the gut test. If we use antibiotics, that gut test is worthless because everything will be dead. So we did the supplements and I had amazing success. I wiped out a mild shrimp allergy I've had since I was 20, beef. I just had a chicken and egg surface in my late 30s. All of them wiped out. The only one that really gets me was milk protein. I'll go into anaphylaxis over it. That one's still there. That kind of told me like, man, leaky gut or whatever the new terminology for this, microbiome. I've been to every allergist over the years and blood tests, and I finally did a skin prick test. Every single test came back different. The skin prick test showed my environmental allergies. Okay, I know I've had those. But for food allergies, the blood tests that I'd done my whole life came back showing that I had shrimp, beef, chicken, egg, yet the skin prick test showed I had nothing. And then when I asked my allergist at the time, she's like, you know what, when it really comes down to it, we just don't know much about allergies in general. We just practice avoidance. So now maybe the microbiome is part of what set me off for all those things. And I've seen some successes. So that's where I'm at in my journey. And now that I just did Tiny Health, looking at your AI powered algorithm and reporting is light years more advanced than the one I used a year ago. And that's where I'm starting at now. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, a lot of traditional stool tests was using this technology called PCR, which means that you only find what you're looking for. It's a panel of very limited microbes. And traditional stool tests are very pathogen focused because it's easier to culture and get the primers for unfriendly bacteria. Actually, what's missing from today's modern lifestyle are beneficial functions and beneficial bacteria, truly. And so our test is what we call like a more functional stool test. We use the term functional because we can see the beneficial pathways that actually aid with all the beneficial functions that's required to improve digestion, immune system, even as your crowd may be working out, doing all these fitness hacks, that can improve performance as well as hormone production, including testosterone and estrogen recycling and things like that. So all these things we can now see in our stool tests, which is using genome sequencing, and some call it next-gen sequencing from culturing or PCR technology. So we use metagenomic sequencing. This truly gives you more metrics that are aligned with the latest microbiome science coming out of academia. So it's really cool when you're reading a paper and you can actually see those metrics in your Tiny Health stool test.
Using your proprietary AI PCR testing with that stool test, you get your report, which I just got. You get an overall score for it. Then it's just, I haven't had my consult yet. The best I could do is take that whole report, throw it into ChatGPT and be like, can you help me out with this? So I'm assuming you guys have a little bit more knowledge.
We're building that because everyone told me they're throwing their results into ChatGPT or Grok or Claude. And I'm like, oh gosh, they could hallucinate. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Well, and my consult's a month away. In my mind, I'm just trying to get a head step on it and use natural foods. Don't waste my money on supplements. I'll wait for my consult. So maybe like 8 years ago, there was a company that was doing microbiome, or at least what they knew at the time, and got a score. And then they would refer you to different foods. They were all about not using supplements, using natural foods. And over the course of 6 months, I retested again and hardly anything budge. So that's my question. Is supplements now, with more advanced knowledge with what you got, is food choices still applicable, or is supplements the better route, or is a mix of both? What do you think?
It's a really hard question to answer. Yeah. And the truth is that supplement companies are not regulated, right? So they're not all equal. We cater to people's choices. Some people are more diet oriented, so we have those recommendations. Some people are more supplement oriented, and then there's lifestyle changes as well. I always feel like supplements are a good, quicker way to get to correcting some imbalances, but you always have to eat real foods from a dietary perspective to maintain it. Even though I'm running a gut health testing platform, I don't even take probiotics if I don't need it. For example, I was taking a bifidobacteria-based probiotic because I didn't have that, and that is actually important for immune system, not just for babies and kids, but even into adulthood and longevity. People who live through 100 years old actually have a healthy level of bifidobacteria in their guts. And this is one of the most common beneficial bacteria that's completely wiped out of the modern gut because of antibiotic overuse. So I was taking that because I had none. And now I have about between 2 to 5% consistently without ongoing probiotic supplementation because I'm eating the prebiotic fiber to maintain it. Prebiotic foods are almost like the prebiotic. When you eat foods, a lot of fiber you eat, your body can't digest it. It actually reaches the large intestines and are there for the right microbes to to digest and turn into energy in a form of short-chain fatty acids called butyrate or acetate production, which then improves and protects your gut lining. When you talk about leaky gut, your intestines, your small and large intestines have this gut lining that's made of one cell wall held together by tight junctions. Eating fiber will give you the energy, the butyrate function to improve the integrity of that gut lining. The way I describe it, your immune system is in your gut. It's almost like a castle. And then the gut lining is like the wall that protects the castle from unfriendly soldiers or people attacking the castle. So if you're eating and exposed to pathogens, because it's just normal, you're constantly being exposed to pathogens, the gut lining protects the pathogens from potentially leaking through to the castle, your immune system, so it doesn't react to it. So when your gut lining is weak, if you don't eat enough fiber or have enough butyrate production, then there's a hole in the wall, and that pathogen or food particles may cross over and your immune system may attack it and create that food sensitivity. So that's all this talk about leaky gut. It's that mechanism. And so there are ways to see if your gut has these healthy bacteria or functions to protect the gut lining, to basically protect your immune system and your castle. You can increase certain fibers through diet, as I mentioned, or supplements. I think you should use supplements short term and then maintain it through diet long term.
Yeah. I love that, that these testing are getting more advanced, because I do believe just randomly taking a probiotic or whatever, and you don't really know which bacteria you're igniting or taking away without having a baseline first. So I don't like taking anything until I get these tests. I don't remember the bacteria strains, but I did have a problem with digesting protein, which I'm like, all this work I do as a personal trainer is just going to waste, because my biome's so jacked up with that one bacteria, whatever one it was, that I'm not digesting properly. Good to know. And then the other one was a problem with the gut lining, which makes sense with all my food allergies. So now that I've taken the test again through Tiny Health, I use ChatGPT to compare my old one to you guys. And basically it mentioned the two that helped with that. So I definitely now have proof that I got improvement. I got to wait for my consult to work on all the other stuff. So
Yeah.
I just had a great experience with moving in the right direction. We're getting more science backed, and AI is definitely helping out. For my over 40 crowd, obviously take prebiotics and fiber. Taking the supplements without having a baseline, I don't see that as a good route.
Yeah. Like we always say, tests, don't guess, right? There is technology now to help you figure out, even from like vitamin, for example, like there's like Superpower or Function Health and a ton of health assessment companies in the market where you're taking your blood biomarkers. Do you have enough zinc or vitamin D or omega-3? Most people are deficient of all these things. I knew, because I worked on my health so much, that I actually have good levels of vitamin D and omega-3. So I don't even supplement those things anymore, but I focus on zinc for immune support and other things. My gut actually is not in the best shape now. I took a trip to Bali last year and I got Bali belly for only one day of diarrhea. Wrecked my gut for a whole year. So I'm going to restore it. And this is where the baseline matters. I've been tracking my gut twice a year on average before the Bali trip. I knew I didn't have any E. coli or salmonella or these unfriendly bacteria. 2 months after I came back from Bali, because we were there for a whole month, I suddenly had 30% of E. coli from that one day of diarrhea. We have this thing in our gut test called a gut resilience score. You can check yours. Yours is probably high, I'm going to bet. But I have very low gut resilience score, which means that if I did get diarrhea or some infection from pathogenic exposure and whatnot, then my gut isn't able to bounce back as readily as possible. And I think I have a low resilience score because of my stress from building a company, being a CEO, and being a mom of 3. My husband, my 2 other kids had really high resilience score, and they all got diarrhea too, but they bounced back. Their gut test came back in the 80s, and I was like in the 30s. Like how much traveler's diarrhea is a real thing, and those bugs can stick in your gut for over a year. But it depends if you have a baseline healthy gut. So it goes to say, just so important to keep your gut healthy, and which it's healthy. Like one major criticism of gut testing companies or platform is that, there's no one universal healthy microbiome. How would you be able to tell me if my gut is healthy or not? Who is looking for one universal healthy microbiome? We're not, but we are looking for elements of a healthy microbiome. Like, do you have enough butyrate function for that gut lining? Do you have a healthy, diverse microbiome? And fermented foods is the number one most impactful thing to increase the diversity of your microbiome. More diversity means higher resilience, the ability to bounce back. So eating fermented foods every day would help with that diversity. For people who are looking at weight loss or metabolic health, you want to look for Akkermansia in your gut. This is one bacteria that I apparently don't have and been trying to increase it. It's just really hard to increase if you don't have it. It's another beneficial bacteria missing from our modern guts because of antibiotic overuse. For example, you can do diet polyphenol-rich foods. A lot of dark-colored berries and fruits would help with that. Or you can take an Akkermansia supplement. So there are elements of a healthy microbiome that we want to look for in our stool tests, and most of them are beneficial functions.
Yeah. So going back to your travel issues and having your microbiome wiped out, or I can imagine people who just use antibiotics, you basically just wiped everything out. Your resilience scores should help come back. But like on my testing, I've got myself up to a 82 out of 100. If I had taken antibiotics and just wiped out my biome, is it safe to say that if I keep eating the same way that got me to an 82, should I still be able to get back to that 82? Or now that everything's been wiped out, I will have to get a microbiome test? It just changes all the time.
Yeah, it might change. If you did have a resilient gut, I would look into that score specifically. And also, there's another metric called antibiotic resistance. If you had high antibiotic resistance bacteria in your gut to begin with, if you did take that antibiotic, those bacteria may actually flourish. So if given your score is that high, I would surmise that you might have pretty low antibiotic resistant bacteria in your gut and a high resilience score. That would be good, which may mean that it could bounce back pretty easily. However, I would still do a test at least 4 to 6 weeks after the antibiotic medication. For example, if you had bifidobacteria before or Akkermansia bacteria that I mentioned, could be wiped out. And if you don't take care and actually intentionally restoring those missing bacteria, it may never come back. So it really depends, right? It depends on how broad spectrum your antibiotic is, the duration in which you took it. If it's like a long course, some people may have to be on antibiotics for a month or two from an operation they had to go through or some sort of more severe infection, right? If it's a 5-day, maybe 10-day course, it might be okay, but I would still check in because I wouldn't want to take that risk. So the aging microbiome, especially after 40, and I would say more so 50s and on, the microbiome becomes less resilient actually. So we want to build the resilience up, right? I wouldn't take it for granted. And I would actually look into how to boost the beneficials after any amount of medication, new symptoms, new condition, because we have aging cells, or mitochondria function decreases and all that. So you want to really check in because everything is connected to the gut, right? And so you want to make sure that gut health is there to support cellular growth and health.
You would recommend if that happened to somebody, either high doses of antibiotics or travel issues, you would want them to test pretty quickly after that? I think you'd want them to get better and give enough time, maybe a few months, just to see what your baseline is again.
Yeah, that's what I did. So when I went for a month, pretty quickly, the first week I got diarrhea. I came back and I waited 6 weeks because I wanted to stabilize my gut with my diet here. I have RO filter here, and in Bali I didn't have all that. Maybe the water was really bad there, all the fumes from the motorcycle and all that. When I came back here, I tested 6 weeks after, and my whole family's gut had bounced back and was in great shape, except mine.
What about antibiotics? I've heard that wipe everything out for like up to 6 months. Is that true? Or you should be able to bounce back pretty quick?
It should bounce back after a month.
Oh, okay.
That's why in our instructions, if you're taking antibiotics, we ask you to wait 4 to 6 weeks.
And that should be enough.
Some people are on prophylactic antibiotics and they're taking it every single day. And sometimes we get the results back and we see nothing, no bacteria. Yeah. Sometimes we see it. Your body is a really wonderful thing. It tries to adjust to whatever you throw at it, right? There was a case where someone was on prophylactic antibiotics for 2 years already. And when we got the results back, we did see something. So, but not always. I would say it's safer to wait if you're just taking a medication.
And so now, like in my mind, I got my score. I don't have my consult yet. It's coming up. But like I said, I had to check with ChatGPT just to get me going. It mentioned to stop certain things, some red meat and some alcohol. And I told it, my thing is about lifestyle. You got to work around that. I'll cut down a little bit, but this is part of my life. I'll never stop drinking alcohol on weekends. I will never stop eating red meat. It's the only thing that gives me joy in life. So then I asked it, you have to give me workarounds for this. Is that something you guys promote, working with someone's lifestyle, or there's going to be some habit changing that needs to take place if someone's really far off?
It's in moderation, right? We actually don't recommend that you stop red meat. Protein is really healthy. Cited some studies that shows that meat encourages, especially if you have high protein breakdown and whatnot in your results. A lot of studies don't differentiate if it's healthy, source, well-raised meat, like grass-fed, grass-finished organic meats, right? Because a lot of factory-raised meats are different and there's a lot of antibiotic use, or processed meats. They don't differentiate if it's like natural meat, meaning like how they cooked it, or the process. When you process meat in the form of fast food or junk food and nitrate-laden jerkies and things like that, you're going to get very different results. So I want to correct that misconception. I eat a lot of red meat. We're pretty not carnivore diet quite, because fiber and fruits are essential. What is happening is if you have the protein issue, which is what you mentioned in your stool test, actually, because the main function of the small intestines is to absorb nutrients. And so if you eat a lot of meat, red meat, protein, and you don't eat enough fiber, then it doesn't balance out. A lot of the protein doesn't get digested in the small intestines. And when it reaches the large intestines, it encourages unfriendly bacteria there. So all that's to say, if you want to eat a lot of meat, make sure you balance it up with enough fiber. As far as alcohol, there's emerging research coming out, and the Human Show, and a lot of people talk about it too, that there's no like healthy levels of alcohol. Even one glass of alcohol is like in a way poison to your gut. It kills your gut bacteria. If you think about if you're using alcohol wipes to kill bacteria in your hands, what does it do in your gut, right? But that said, no judgments. I'm not like alcohol free. I do drink more NA beer now. I enjoy that to reduce my alcohol consumption, knowing what it does to my gut. But there are ways to hack it, so to speak. For example, I wear my Oura Ring, and sleep is one of the biggest things you can hack. If you don't fix your sleep, fixing anything else is not as effective.
Yeah.
Well, alcohol, the problem with alcohol, it kills your deep sleep. So I would do alcohol if I need a glass of wine or whatever. I would try to do alcohol earlier in the day, if possible, like brunch or something like that. Or if you have to do it at night, do it earlier. And make sure you have enough time to let your body get rid of it and ferment it. So I found that helps with my sleep, and also then in return your gut bacteria as well.
Well, that's cool. Either way, I'd just like to promote out there 82 out of 100 with my current routines here. So it is possible. But yeah, everything is habit building, working on things that you need to tone down, and I'm all for that. Cheryl, as far as your program, when I first signed up, I was a little confused. I figured it out. You obviously sell kits, just solo kits, one stool test, one consult, that's it. Obviously, the family membership is like the real value. I did a family of 3 and ended up getting one extra stool kit for free. Plus, it came with consults for everybody. And like I said, just more of a value. When you sign up, there was one for babies, and there's like 3 different options. And it ended up being, I think, the same thing. It was when I emailed you guys, you told me it didn't really matter. It was just telling you who was the person you were most looking to help. So I was just confused that it was separated.
Oh, no, it's just from the marketing speak. Because
the marketing side.
So you get the test kit. And basically what it means is it's an at-home test kit. I guess we didn't really mention what this is. You take a sample of your stool with a swab. The swab is the same for everyone, whether it's a baby or a child, mom or dad, or if you're just testing your adult stool. And when you come and activate your kit, because there's a kit ID here to identify whose sample this belongs to, you tell us your age, your birth date, and we personalize the report according to their age. The infant microbiome is really different from a 2-month-old, an 8-month-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-year-old versus a 40-year-old. They're all different reference ranges, right?
Yeah.
Now we actually have a research project that we're just launching next week. If you go to tinyhealth.com/research, you'll see, I think we're calling it either a longevity research project or microbiome age. We can actually see if you have a microbiome age of, or in your 40s, if you are in your 40s, or 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So we want to chart what does the aging microbiome look like, right? No one has done it before. So that's something you can look out for. We personalize your results according to that reference range when you register your kit.
Okay. So yeah, when you go on the website, just all the terms on each family plan, it's just a marketing thing. Pick whichever one it works for your family. A family membership is a family plan, and a single one is a single one.
You value the Tiny Plus family membership. It gives you 2 kits and 1 call, and you can buy more kits at a cheaper rate. Yeah, I think Crowd Health, if you are a Crowd Health member, you get that reimbursement. So like, it's not really free with the family membership. It's just a Crowd Health specific deal that you got there.
And that's what sold me, was not only it was a great rate, but my Crowd Health offered to pay for some of it too. So it was a no-brainer for me and my family. Since I got it, basically, just like you said, it was a stool test, pretty easy to put it back in a prepackaged label, send it. And within a day, it told me that it was on its way. And then in 2 weeks, we got it. And it took like 3 more weeks to say, hey, here's your results. and then you schedule your consults. That's where we are.
A lot of people don't even want to wait for consults. We're so backed up now, frankly, because it's just something that's hard to scale. The one-on-one. But we are building the AI machine to help you interpret results. I think the scary thing about the AI tools out there right now is they don't know the microbiome the way we do.
Exactly. For me, I didn't see any harm with what ChatGPT referenced for me. It was just some natural food products that I was okay with anyway. So whether or not it helps me, I'll find out on my consult with you guys. Just wanted to play a little bit of biohacking early.
For sure. Totally legit.
Well, Cheryl, anything else you want to put out there to my over 40 crowd before we go into how to get a hold of you, how to get some of these testing done?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I'll mention is that, especially for your listeners, if they're interested in weight loss, the GLP is produced in your gut as well. We are coming up with that metric soon, and everything's retroactive, depending on when you bought the test. Sometimes if we come up with a new version, you might need to buy a new test. But because GLP-1 has taken the world by storm, I always feel like working out and doing things through diet is more sustainable, but it does help with people who have persistent weight issues and diabetes. I just wanted to mention this because your gut microbiome is also responsible to produce GLP-1 molecules, which help regulate blood sugar and hunger, right? Right now, a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate, you can see in a Tiny Health test. You might want to take a look at that if you are looking to lose weight. Also, bifidobacteria and lactobacillus are two healthy bacteria that a lot of people are missing. If you want to improve performance and increase weight loss and reduce hunger, these are things to look out for in our tests.
If they are a low score in each of those categories, you'll be going over that.
Yeah, you can look for these elements: Archimenzia, bifidobacteria, lactobacillus, and butyrate function. I know it's a mouthful, but we are near future, creating this category of GLP, your gut's ability to aid GLP-1 production. So it's easier to see all of these metrics in one so that you know what areas to work on, what supplements to take, what diets to eat more of or less of, and things like that. Highly encourage everyone to do a family membership. Even if you just want to retest your own gut, do a membership, because I think their longitudinal tracking is where the value is at.
Okay. Well, very cool, Cheryl. Like I said, I'm excited to get my consult and see where the direction I'm going to be taking with my gut health. But for everyone else, is basically just tinyhealth.com. Is that the best place to push people to, or do you have any other social media channels?
Yes, tinyhealth.com to really look at our options. And I would highly encourage a membership. On Instagram, we have a lot of educational resources at tiny.health. If you DM us, we're pretty responsive there. Now, you can also write in to hello@tinyhealth.com for any questions that you may have. And I think gut health is really the next frontier of longevity. And longevity is what I take to mean not just lifespan, but also health span, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to just live longer. You also want to live healthier.
Absolutely. And I think since I've joined too with a family membership, I'm getting all these webinar invites, which I did one. It was real informative, and I think that's great. And all these different newsletters. So it's like, oh, wow, I'm getting so much value for doing the family. I'm glad I did that versus just the one and done test. I really highly promote that. So, but Cheryl, I'd just like to thank you so much for coming on my show. And who knows, maybe after a couple more tests, I'll get you back on and go over some of
I'll do a live interpretation for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.